The benefit of this degree and this program is that it enables students, whether they start from the beginning or whether they come in for the 2-year transition, to enhance their understanding of the fundamental underlying assumptions behind why a paralegal is so important in our legal system. That being to bridge that gap between the most vulnerable communities, clients, and the legal system. And that's why this moniker of access to justice is so important. It's important because you are here to bridge the gap between the vulnerable community and the legal system, and you do that, and what you're doing is providing access to justice. In a 2-year program versus a 4-year program, they get courses in our 4-year program, for example, like Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which I teach, philosophy of law, access to justice. They more focus on alternative dispute resolution. And this enables them to really understand their role. Plus, they revisit courses that fine-tune, hone, and enhance their knowledge in some of the key issues that paralegals can practice in: landlord-tenant, administrative law, employment law, insurance law, where although those sound like laws that a lot of people use, the most vulnerable clients, when they have an accident, for an example, they're already economically challenged, and now they're further in trouble because they can no longer work at maybe their minimum wage job. They're subjected to all sorts of like court proceedings. So it makes vulnerable people even more vulnerable, and it makes people who weren't vulnerable before vulnerable. So in a 4-year program, this really, we bring that home through a lot of examples. And then the other element of the degree program, which really helps paralegals become, I would say, more whole, is the ability to practice. The way this course works, this Access to Justice Capstone course works, is there's 3 weeks of intense reading and analyzing of existing peer-reviewed material on legal issues, justice issues, access to justice. And then we have 4 weeks of live people, live speakers coming in who are paralegals who come into the class, and the students have to ask focused questions to those speakers on areas like child protection, human rights abuses, landlord and tenant advocacy, and they are able to test their theoretical knowledge with real people. And then as a final cap on the course, they have to present a research thesis and paper that demonstrates they've understood access to justice, and they get to select the issue, and they show their presentation skills. So for me, that doesn't exist in the diploma and certificate programs. In all of our degree programs at Humber, there are capstone courses, and they're similar. So this is really helpful. The way this course works, this Access to Justice Capstone course works, is there's 3 weeks of intense reading and analyzing of existing peer-reviewed material on legal issues, justice issues, access to justice. And then we have 4 weeks of live people, live speakers coming in who are paralegals who come into the class, and the students have to ask focused questions to those speakers on areas like child protection, human rights abuses, landlord and tenant advocacy, and they are able to test their theoretical knowledge with real people. And then as a final cap on the course, they have to present a research thesis and paper that demonstrates they've understood access to justice, and they get to select the issue, and they show their presentation skills. So for me, that doesn't exist in the diploma and certificate programs. In all of our degree programs at Humber, there are capstone courses, and they're similar. So this is really helpful. We're bringing in people from the industry who then say to our students, this is what you need in order to get here and there, and this is what this industry is all about. I think a really important thing to do when these opportunities are there for industry interaction, collaboration, and partnership is for students to really understand the right questions to ask them. So when industry partners come in and they talk to students, I ask them to post questions, and I grade those questions based on the connection of that question to the industry that's going to be discussed. So that they're not just asking general questions like, how did you get here, but they're asking questions about, in this industry, how would this get done? How would I do this? What does this mean to the legal system? And that way they have an opportunity to really understand things like that. I think the one thing that we do have as well is that, on our advisory board and there's another industry partnership that I would like to highlight that I'm the lead on, which is the Journal of Paralegal Access to Justice. So we have a partnership with Emond Publishing, and that's a publishing company that publishes a lot of textbooks. And Emond publishes every year a Journal of Paralegal Access to Justice. That journal is articles written by our students who their thesis presentation rises to the level of a publishable article, which there's the next phase, which is that if that happens, they can submit this, either their thesis or a refined and an enhanced or improved version of their thesis for potential publication. So these students, through this industry partnership, this collaboration, are able to get articles that they've written and researched published in the real world, which adds to their profile. So this course originally, Access to Justice, was a course on access to justice. It's being transformed in two ways. One is it's being expanded to 2 courses, like most Capstone courses are in degrees. We have a 1, and it's just a function of history. It's being expanded to 2, and I'm in charge of that. And the second one is, this is a pathway to you getting published. And so I'm preparing them for that. The paralegal degree program at Humber, for me, is that it's an opportunity to rebrand the idea of a paralegal. For historical reasons, paralegals followed a similar path to lawyers. They get licensed by the Law Society and they do their practice. And that's great. But what is missing is the additional value added that they bring, which is that they're there to help the most vulnerable. And there's a reason for that. It's really just political, small p. It's like, you don't want them to be seen as less than a lawyer, and I understand the reason why that's happened. But what I think is so important to show them as a value added is that they actually can talk to the everyday person about the problems that are preventing them from living a life free of rights violations and justice barriers and general other barriers. So for me, that's my passion. So that's why I like to teach the access to justice, and I'm publishing that journal so people can see what paralegals really think about. I mean, they've come up with some of the most amazing innovative solutions, like tribunals for family law, or various mechanisms to bring different groups in. You heard about healing lodges today. And so for me, they come up with great ideas. I mean, I just tell them, please bring that idea forward, make that a reality. So that's what keeps me working on this and teaching access to justice and Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And, we're trying to bring back family law, and I would like a human rights law and practice course. And I have all sorts of ideas about making paralegals, set them apart from lawyers as a profession that is so necessary, and they're not just an enhancement to lawyers. So I tell them, you're part of a large global tribe of people who are there to help, rectify inequities, and that gives them a little bit of empowerment too. So this course allows me to give them that empowerment to really, sit with what they're doing. And it is, yes, also can be a pathway to law school, doing our paralegal degree, but I also think we need paralegals as a profession on their own to really do what I've just described, which is, provide the most vulnerable with access to justice. what is really rewarding, and I wish that I saw it every day all the time, but there are various challenges with the student of today and their experience in the educational system. It's hard for them, is to see them experience that click, that, oh, I get it. And it happens all the time in a class like this, because they'll meet a speaker and all of a sudden everything they've sort of been reading and thinking about and talking about clicks when a speaker says, this is how it rolls out in the field. And I love seeing that. The other thing is I get lots of messages, and one of them is always that they'll say, I never knew how important it was to be concerned about everybody being able to access justice. Nobody has ever, we're in our society now, we're definitely past the point where we think that it's people's fault that they end up in these situations, but people still don't know why it's so difficult to bridge that gap. And that's really important for me. The other one is that when they realize that there's so much they can do with this education. So there's not only just practicing as a paralegal, opening in an office, like a small legal office, there's working in government. So I love to promote the idea that students can work in, in immigration, in customs, in the Ministry of Justice, I just helped a student get a placement at the Office of the Veterans Ombudsman. So they'll be advocating for veterans that make claims against the government for, their pensions and other things not being paid, or for mental health issues. And this guy's a veteran himself, and he's going to be working with veterans in an administrative. So I love it when students find their home. This is what they want to do. And this course really helps them do that, particularly because after learning about all these different areas, they're asked to choose one. What's your passion? It's so hard for some of them. And that's what I love to see, when they just find their home. And the home can be, I want to work in a corporate law firm. And that's great too. Just whatever, makes you feel that you've accomplished your goals and your dreams.